Hey, it's Mark Marin from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hi, this is Frances from Fixable, a podcast from TED. These days, every finance leader is under pressure to save money. But you can't beat the competition just by cutting costs. To win, you need to spend smarter and move faster. You need Brex. Brex is the modern finance platform that breaks the trade-off between control and speed with intelligent corporate cards, high-yield banking, and AI-powered expense management. Join the 30,000 companies that spend smarter and move faster with Brex. Learn more at brex.com/grow.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones. As you can hear, I've lost my voice. And it's that time of year again when flus and colds are flying through the air. And when I work with people in my day job, you do get, unfortunately, connections with people that are sick. So, as it's the farewell ever to Ozzy weekend, I thought I'd put on my favourite episode about my favourite Ozzy solo album, and one that's done the most numbers. This is one of my most popular episodes ever. So if you haven't heard it, please do enjoy it. And the natural order of things will resume next week, hopefully, when my voice comes back. Keep safe, keep well, and enjoy the episode. Bye for now. Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones. You've just heard me in a little intro asking you to come and give me some ideas, so do as I tell you, please. Jump on and let me know. Anyway, this episode is, as you can tell by the thumbnail and the headline, it's about my favourite Ozzy Osbourne solo album. It's not one that people would expect it to be, and it's not one that people genuinely like. Oh, by the way, I have a little visitor today in the recording studio. I've got my little pet cat Phoebe here. She's a big purrer. So if you hear her purring in the background under the mic, it's just her being happy sitting on my lap. We never know, she might jump off and smash everything if she gets startled, but at the moment she's just settling down. Anyway, so it's No Rest for the Wicked, right? So it's Ozzy Osbourne's 5th solo album after leaving Sabbath. And it was released on the 28th of September 1988. Okay, it was reissued in 1995 and again in 2002. It reached 13 on the US Billboard chart, and it was the first time that we get to hear Zakk Wylde recording with Ozzy, or recording in general. Now, a lot of people do say to me that I have some very strange choices in favourites, often the off-kilter, not the ones that most people listen to. Or rate, and I think for me it's an emotional. When I think of my top 10s, top 5s, and favourites, a lot of them are more emotional than physical. So I bought the album when it came out on cassette, I believe. Yes, I did, and then again on on CD, and it was really important time because I was about to leave school, and I was sort of getting into the real heavy scene, which was sort of, as you know, in the late 80s was sort of a bit dire. Really, it was sort of just coming up to the grunge phenomena was sort of creeping in. You'd had your pseudo electronic pop for some time. R&B was reigning supreme. Heavy rock was something that your dads listened to, and they made that horrible term AOR, just adult-orientated rock. I can't stand that moniker. It's one of my least favourite things. If I see things ticked with that, I tend to, I'm not walk away, but I tend to take a deep breath. Anyway, so it comes out. I bought it at our price in Brent Cross, North London. And I put it on. And I remember I didn't hear any of the singles from it. I didn't really... I think Miracle Man was a single off of it. I didn't really go into it knowing. I was one of those people, I still am, just buy the album. You know, at the end of the day, pennies not going to change your life, and it might change your life, you know what I mean, like musically, but it's not going to make you bankrupt most of the time. So I bought it with my pay packet. I wasn't getting paid much. It was on £1.25 an hour. If you think about it now, it's criminal, isn't it? And that is a long time ago now, though. And minimum wage has changed in the UK. And so, you know, it's his fifth studio album. It's very much hindered, or in most people's views, by the recording sound, the studio, the mix, the eclecticism of the lyrical content. Some people say it's a bit too not digital because it's pre-digital, but a bit too clean. Some people say it's a bit stop-gappy. Well, for me, it's the perfect follow-on to his previous album, which was really kind of... It was very weak. I didn't think Mortal Sin was a really strong album. That was sort of a little bit... I'm going to put my tea down. Excuse me. My camel up, I can't much room. I thought it was a little bit insipid, to be honest. Did you notice my ever so slightly silly error there? Not Mortal Sin, Ultimate Sin. I was thinking of something else, different band. Yeah, it was an insipid, blandish album that I can't tell you. I don't think I've ever played probably more than 3 times. Again, some people love that album. I think it's a terrible cover because it's very lightweight. Even Ozzy thought it was very lightweight and underproduced. Anyway, so Ozzy then has had several guitarists since leaving the immortal Black Sabbath, of course, the legendary one and only Randy Rhoads, then Jakey Lee, and then we have Zakk Wylde. Now, Zakk Wylde, what do I think about Zakk Wylde? Okay, I saw Zakk Wylde with Black Label Society at Soundwave. So for your overseas listeners, it's the Australian version of Download, or it was a metal and punk festival that went over 1 to 2 days. I saw them on a small stage, and it was probably about 150 people, and I was right at the front, and he came entered the stage wearing an Indian red feathered headdress, and you know, he's a polarizing character. We all know how we feel about Ozzy. I'm not going to talk about how we feel about Ozzy. That's a whole different thing. Let's talk about the people around him in this album. So, Zakk was he's a extremely talented guitarist and has created a sound. I think he's created Ozzy's modern sound. He's post. I think the post Jakey Lee sound definitely is him. And look, the story goes that he recorded some music, and how he did it for his demo, he recorded into one boombox, and for you youngsters, that's a sort of tape deck. And as he was playing back the previous piece, he soloed over the top and recorded it onto another. So it was early form of double tracking. He had big blonde hair. He looked like a sort of Randy Rhoads knockoff. And he sent the tape to Ozzy, and Ozzy chucked it in the pile, went on another Randy Rhoads. I don't need someone like him. He was looking for something different. And Sharon's like, no, give this guy a listen. And, of course, the rest is history. He got him to come down to apparently, Zakk Wylde said that he thought when he got a call from Sharon, he thought it was his mate's mum fucking him about. It wasn't until he got the plane tickets in the mail that he realised, shit, he's got to go down for the audition. So he went down and auditioned, and of course he got the part. Ozzy being Ozzy is fantastic. He says, and I quote, "When I first saw his photograph on the tape, he looked like a Randy Rhoads knockoff. Now he looks like a member of the Taliban." Which I can sort of see, right? The difference... The difference, though, I think between... Oh, there she goes. The difference, though, I think between Randy and Zakk, and even Jake, is that Randy was had neoclassicism in his soul. So, like, Randy was always... wherever he went, he was looking for guitar teachers, and he wanted to be a guitar teacher himself, and he wanted to go to university and study classical music. And so in his soul, he's a classicist. Whereas Randy, Zakk, even though he copied, Randy as a like with that sort of neoclassicism, he also had this southern whiskey-soaked, Texan barbecue style sound. Did you hear that wonderful edit? I smacked the mic as my cat decided to jump from my lap as well, and then it went all to shit. Anyway, so yes, as I was saying, so he had this sort of, that sort of honky-tonk, deep southern blues vibe, and you get that with his sound and his guitar. I really think you hear that. You hear that guttural heat, sweat, long hair, leathers, bikes. It really is very much Zakk, and anyone knows Zakk, you'll find that out. The one thing about this album that I do like, and some of the earlier other works that Zakk has recorded with Ozzy, is that this particular one. Now, pardon my when I say this, but I'm a guitar nerd, and I love all that sort of everything to do with fast, heavy guitars. But there is only so much pinch harmonics a man can take. Now, those that don't know what a pinch harmonic is, so it's got a more youthful term as a squealy. It's that high-pitched note that comes in through the middle of the bar. It's basically when you strike the note with your pick and then follow through with your thumb and you dead the string at a certain part in between the pickups and certain notes on the fretboard, you create a harmonic note, and it's a pinch one, so it's like a quick one. And look, a good friend of mine once said, when you think Zakk can't squeeze another one into the bar, oh, there he goes, another one's in. It's very hard technique to master at will, and he can do it at will, so he shows off. So sometimes it's a bit too much. Please, Zakk, please, stop. Anyway, Zakk, if you're hearing, not that you're going to, I'm sure I don't care. I know you care about me, but the point is, yeah, it's a bit too much sometimes. So Zakk recorded this particular album on his 1981 Gibson Target, his Les Paul, the classic Les Paul Target. Yeah, Tinkly, that's my little cat. And it's quite a beautiful guitar, if I have to say. He used when he started originally first recording, he was using a Metaltronics amp, and the sound just didn't work. It just wasn't working. So it was in the studio, and some bright spark decided, hey, why don't you go and grab this? And they gave him a classic Marshall JMC 800. That noise in the background was my neighbours mowing the lawn again. Okay. JMC 800 combo amp. Now, it's the same one that White Snake used in the studio. It has, with his guitar, he's got EMG 81, 80, and 85 pickups. And he likes to use just a basic fuzz distortion pedal through the amp in the mix there. He pans that through a 4x 12-inch Marshall cab with it's an SD1 Super Overdrive. That's the pedal for your guitar nerds. Puts that in the chain, and the sound is massive. Now, I think that particular cab for speaker nuts is either a black. They're either black backs or green backs. I'm not quite sure. I haven't checked yet. 1 second. I'm just going to pause and shut the door. That is really irritating me. Okay, guys, we still might see it or hear it. Sorry if we do. Many apologizes. I'm making up words. Many apologies for that fact. It's just a fact of living in a house with gardens, and the gardeners like to mow lawns, and the time of day I've got to record is this time, so that's where it is. So as I was saying, let's say greenbacks or blackbacks, I'm not quite sure. Greenbacks have a much rounder sound, and blackback speakers have a much deeper sound. I'm probably going to think in 88 these are probably blackbacks. Greenbacks are quite hard to get hold of. Anyway, so Zach decided that when he came to this album, the recording, he was going to pull all the stops out. He's going to do sweep picking, harmonic minor scales, diminished scales, tapping, pentatonic scales. I think that a little bit of chicken picking as well, which is really to belies his country sound that I was mentioning before. That's a honky tonk blues driven bayou sound. I think it's his best work with Ozzy. As I said before at the beginning, this sort of music is so subjective, isn't it? I don't want to be, lying to you and saying, oh no, my favourite one's, Bark at the Moon or Diary of a Madman. Yeah, they're amazing albums, they truly are. But the one that sort of sings and resonates with me is this. I mean, you think about it. There's someone in 30 odd years' time again, like with me, is going to get very, very gooey over Slipknot, or Tool or something awful like Ghost or bloody Limp Bizkit or something like that. They're going to be, and someone else is going to be talking about it, and they go, "What are you talking about? It's rubbish." And it's because they came to it in that emotional period in their life, and it does create a sense of good feel a feel good factor in them. Anyway, back to where I was. Okay, so it's a really interesting. The album itself has some very gifted alumni on it. You've got Bob Daisley on bass. Now, Bob Daisley's he's an Australian from Sydney, and he's worked with Ozzy for many years. I mean, on and off, there's been some, legal wranglings with songwriting issues over the songwriting credits on Diary of a Madman. That aside, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about the here and now and the album that he's on. He's an amazing bass player. He played with Uriah Heep and Rainbow. He collaborated on Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, Ultimate Sin, No More Tears. He's worked with Gary Moore, and just a superb bass player, and one of those bass players like Steve Harris that can just they write great songs. They just knuckle down, and they're not just that one octave below the main and sitting along. They play. He plays parts that disparate and jarring to the other parts, but at the same time beautiful and synergistic. And also, I mean, he played really well with Randy Castillo on drums, who spent the 80s and 90s playing with Ozzy and with Motley Crue. Sadly, he passed away in 2002 of cancer. I think it was jaw. Cancer was growth on his jaw. A great bass player and drum combination. Great rhythm section. So really tight band. Zach coming through, young 21-year-old. Really wanting to impress. Then you've got the middle-aged songwriters of Daisley and Osbourne and Castillo, and they're writing. They've got such pedigree under their belts that they've seen it all, done it all, really, even by '88 standards. Ozzy wasn't quite clean, of course. We all know that. Sharon was trying to clean him up. He still was taking, heavily into his drugs and his alcohol. I think he tried to by that point in '88. I could be wrong. Sorry, Aussie aficionados out there waving their fingers at me and saying, no, he was clean by then. I don't think he was. I think that he was still... he wasn't like he is now. I think he was functional then. I don't think Ozzy now, to be truthful, God bless the Dark Lord's soul, he's not that functional now. The album is really eclectic in its breakdown. Now, I've rabbited on. I'm going to come back to the other side, talk about the producer of the album, the song mixes, the lyrical content. I'm going to go and freshen my cup of tea. I've gone well over my time. I should usually get a break in by now, but you go and get yourself a new drink, and find the album on Spotify if you want. Listen to the album before we chat about the songs, and then we'll see what your opinions are. Anyway, talk to you on the other side, guys. Bye. Hi guys, welcome back to after the break, and you've listened to some nice advertising that might make you buy a mattress or buy some shares. Who knows? Anyway, so we've talked about the people in the band and their pedigree. Let's talk about the people behind the scenes. So it was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, British-born producer with a very, very long pedigree. I'm not going to name everything because it'd be too much, but he did Queen's Queen, he did Queen 2, Queen Night of the Opera, Yes Paris Live Sessions, The Stranglers 10. I mean, so many, many more. Even stuff up like in different genres. He's doing dance music, pop music. Really, really clever. And I think he and Ozzy have fallen out over time, and I think they've had issues. It was being produced before that, and they brought him in to fix it because it was sounding really, really crap. And they had to, because as I said, after Ultimate Sin, they needed a heavier sound, and Roy Thomas Baker was that man. So there you go. You've got this great sort of, and it was recorded live as well. So the tracks in the studio, they weren't laid down like they are now on Pro Tools, clicked and moved and cleaned and polished. And you go away now, you've played 4 notes and I'll repeat it 17 times, and we've got a song. No, these were Ozzy's always been into the live in the studio sound. So I don't know if he does it so much now, but he liked the knowing that your guitarists are playing together, your bass player and the drummer are in the same room, or in separate rooms but in the same studio, that the singer is in another room to the guitar. It just felt like they're all together making a song, not a bunch of sort of flying by nights, jumping in, jumping out, making it and going away, which often is the case, I think, with modern music. I've talked about it before. It's a different subject. I won't talk about it now. My dislike for extremely cleaned click track music. We all listen to it. We all will not, sometimes you forgive its sins and just listen to the music for the music's sake. But there are other times when I can hear it and it hurts me. It just does. Anyway, so we've got this great producer. We've got this great guitarist. We've got a great bass player and a very good drummer. And we've got this great setup with his Marshall and his JMC 800 and his fantastic Gibson Les Paul, which is the only way you can get that sound. Honestly, guys, is with a Les Paul. You aren't getting his sound with a Fender or a Jackson or a PRS. You're just not going to. There's something that Gibson. Get my tea. Sorry. Something that Gibson does very well is dirty, filthy, devil-driven, blues-ridden heavy rock. It's the guitar choice. It should be the only guitar, in my opinion. But then again, what do I know? Okay. So we move on to the actual album itself. Okay, I think it's a really eclectic mix of song titles. Okay, I'm going to read them through to you. You probably all know them anyway, but I'll read them through. Look at this. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. See, I do have notes, Captain. I do have notes. Starts with Miracle Man. It runs in at 3 minutes 44. You've got Devil's Daughter, Holy War, 5:15. Crazy Babies at 4:15. Breaking in All the Rules at 5 minutes 15. Bloodbath in Paradise, 5:03. Tattooed Dancer, 3:53. Demon Alcohol, 4:30. And last but not least, Hero at 4:49. So they're not long songs. They're not hanging around. They're not progtastic moments of orgiastic keyboard solos. They are perfect length rock and roll, heavy metal rock and roll. And, Ozzy comes from that blues background when it was the Earth Band. Teddy Boy. Sorry, not Teddy Boy. Wrong thing, not Teddy Boy. It was a Bother Boy, which is like the Skinheads. And he paused dramatically on his life experiences with most of his songs. There's Ozzy. Miracle Man, it's just about, someone who's selling snake oil, blue medicines full of green smoke, as my dad would say, bottles of blue steam, the kind of guy that would send you down when you worked in a factory and it was your first job at a 15-year-old, he'd send you down to the guy that owned the stores and ask for a spirit level bubble or some sparks for the grinder or some steam for the kettle, that kind of thing, or a long stand, those kind of people, it's about that sort of swagger that they have, and this sort of lyrical content tends to find itself all the way through the album. You got Devil's Daughter, Holy War. So that one is a little bit more of an interesting number. It's one I can't get my head around, to be honest with you. So the lyric is like, well, I know where you live. I know you live alone. I'll pay a visit in your darkest hour. Got to treat a store, won't be the same no more, and I'll demonstrate my holy power. And then the chorus is, I see through you, I see through what is inside you, I'll make you break down and cry. Devil's Daughter, you don't want a holy war. Honestly, I'm not quite sure. It could be about issues he had with Sharon, because he may have been having marital issues then. It does sound like a relationship kind of thing that's sort of mixed in. Your future days have passed, no use in fighting battles you can't win. The final conflict's lost, you can't afford the cost. Don't try expiate your father's sins. that I think is Sharon, because her father was a famous record producer, and I think maybe they were having troubles. I mean, again, those I didn't dig into that one because I was digging more into sort of the production of the albums. If anyone out reached out and let me know if that's the case, it makes sense now looking at it. I'm doing this live, by the way, folks, off the cuff. I'm reading the lyrics as I go, straight from Spotify. And then we've got, Crazy Babies. Crazy Babies is another one that sort of eludes me a little bit. Crazy Babies, Never Say Die, Born to Live on a Permanent High, Flying high above the world below, it better come down soon, or everyone will know. Look, again, that's a drug thing. I mean, was he drugged? He probably was at the time, or drunk. It sounds like a reference to being high and drug references, which, yeah, again, nothing to shake a stick at. It's Ozzy, right? It's just the way it is, with him. You are what you are with Ozzy. You get what it says on the bottle, what it says on the tin. Breaking All the Rules is probably one of my favourites on the album. It definitely is one of my favourites on the album. It's got a great swaggering guitar piece. I think it's probably one of Zach's best solos. It's just really strong. Lyrically again, well, I know I could be just another stranger, but to you, I guess I'm just another fool. Breaking all the rules. I mean, again, is it to do with these relationships? It probably is. It really probably is. My head's so full of things. I set my mind free of them. I'm breaking all the rules. Yeah. Again, he probably, if he was going through a tough relationship moment in that particular time in his life, then he would have been taking more drugs to cover up his sadness, which is, again. But I said that's one of my favourite solos on the album. Let's have a look at the next one. We got Bloodbath in Paradise. Okay, this has a great swaggering opening piece. Okay, so if people that listen to this podcast enough will know I like really filthy, dirty rock and roll, right? I do like clean, well-polished music, but I like stuff that's really, sounds like it was made by the devil. I mean, that it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but you know what I mean? I'm not a believer in the devil, but it has that grit, that grime, that underproduced, almost poorly played to some extent, and you get that sort of thing with Bloodbath in Paradise. I like the middle eight refrain in this song. It has a really hooky middle eight. Lyrically, again, you're coming home, there's blood on the walls, and Charlie. Okay, that's straightforward. We know what that's about. We know that's about Charlie. That's about the Charles Manson. Okay, those that are not sure who that is, young people listen to this podcast. In the height of the summer of love, Charles Manson and his family, a bunch of drugged out neophytes, went and on his command butchered a pregnant Sharon Tate, who was then married to Roman Polanski. He killed her unborn child, and other people at the party that they invaded. If I've got any of the wrong, those I've washed over. A very horrible, tragic story. I'm trying to keep it a bit light, guys, but it's basically about that. All right, and Manson died in prison only a few years ago, unremorseful, and a nasty piece of work to the end. And it's again, the lyric is very well done. It's very Ozzy. The California sun, but you're still in bed, and the California rain is turning red. No sign of life on the keepers of doom in Charlie and the keeper's scarlet room. Can you hear them in the darkness, helter-skelter, spiral madness? That's a beautiful line, because Charles Manson blamed the Beatles song Helter Skelter for him to going on a killing spree, squeal, piggy squeal, and all that stuff. It's And because at one point or another, Charles said the devil was making him do it as well, all this sort of stuff. We know it's basically just a very damaged human, post-war American, when a lot of that happened in the post-war America with serial killers. Well, the highest rate of serial killers in the world was post-war America because of damaged fathers and sons coming back from war who couldn't quite fit in, taking lots of then legal drugs. As I said before, LSD. You took the LSD then. You didn't get up and party. As I said before, you were the chair. And it damaged them to the point where what they thought was real, sadly, for the tragedy of a lot of people, is not. So that's again, it's quite a dark song, quite a dark album when we actually dig into it. Now, following from that, we have Fire in the Sky. Fire in the Sky. Okay, let's have a look at the lyric on Fire in the Sky. The introduction to his heartache began as a child. It's no wonder that he grew up so wild. So he protected his feelings in the walls he imagined, but castles crumble, exposing your frightened child. Yeah, Fire in the Sky. Now, like, again, that could be anything. It could also be a Manson reference. One of a great line. Now castles crumble, exposing his naked flames. Yeah, Fire in the Sky. Can't you see them all? Castles are burning. I think it's just a beautiful line. It could also be to do with things like the Reformation or you could read anything into that song. Those that are really into Ozzy, please do reach out and tell me what that is about. Personally, this album is not about in-depth sort of what's the word? In-depth pathology of the songs, lyric. I just want to see how I feel. And I feel this song is one of my favourites. Fire in the Sky. It's just that Ozzy's lyrical refrain on all the songs on this album. I made notes here actually. What do I say here? Yeah, I think he's got a really a clean vocal. It doesn't feel. He's also, if I could sort of stand back, there's not a real ballad on this album. Ozzy does suffer towards the end of his solo career. I'm sure he's still making albums. That there's too many ballads, which is, I don't know whether it's because he doesn't want to be as aggressive or he's getting old. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. Either way. Fire in the Sky, great song. Let's move on to the next one. And then you've got possibly, I think, arguably, one of Ozzy's best post Randy Rhoads songs. I'm going to get a lot of feedback off this. And it's actually very un-PC now, and the woke community would probably wipe this from their like they do with all histories. They wipe it from history because it doesn't sit in their agenda. But this one, Tattooed Dancer. Now, when I first heard this, there's a movie. Okay, let's just Mike. There's a movie, a Spanish Mexican movie. It came out in '88. Called Santa Sangria. If you can get it, it's on Tubi and on YouTube and on. I don't think it's on any of the Australian streaming sites, but if you can see it. Side note: I went and saw the movie with my brother, and it's about a quick story. It's about a heavily tattooed, very very buxom, larger sort of. It's a woman she's set in a traveling circus, and this beautiful, heavily tattooed woman is married to the ringmaster, who's this big, sort of fat blonde drunkard, and she's having an affair with everyone in the show, and he catches her And basically, in one brilliant scene, he lops both her arms off. And the son who's watching is traumatized, and the dad tattoos an eagle into his chest. You watch him do it on the screen. Anyway, it's then about this boy. We don't know it's the boy. It's the man and the boy imagery. He goes on a bit of a killing spree. He falls in love with this mute. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie. And I remember coming out and being sort of mesmerized by this movie, this cult movie. And I'd only just bought the album. And so I sort of linked Tattooed Dancer with Santa Sangria, even though completely different people. I mean, Santa Sangria is a beautiful analogy on the abuse of power and the mental state of shock, whereas Tattooed Dancer is about some heavily tattooed dancer on a Sunset Strip that Ozzy's clearly had a moment with, or one of the members of the bands have. The great lyric, well, she's a mean, hard woman and she knows what she wants. She's a tattooed rock and roll dancer. I'm under her thumb, and when she tells me to come, oh, it's the only way I can answer. Or ooh is the only way I can answer. There are the bits that make it a bit un-PC is it does have this bit where he double tracks his vocal and pulls it through on a different track and extends the thing where he goes, and excuse me for swearing here, dance for me, bitch. Is it sexist? Yes. Is it the excesses of heavy metal? Yes. Do I roll my eyes and go, oh, I would never listen to that? No, because it's a time and space. It's the reason why I watch Carry On movies. It's the reason why that I watch movies that are on PC and listen to read books that are not PC, and because it's a different time and place. You cannot put today's morals on yesteryear's morals, and it's the same with this song. It's a dangerous and slippery slope we are living on. We are in, and I'm sorry if I lose any listeners by saying this, but it is the way it is. I'm an old middle-aged man, and I feel that it's very, very dangerous times we live in, to be honest. Anyway, positive things, of course, because we are not misogynistic as much as we used to be, and females have more control, and in metal particularly there's more females, and my love of female fronted and female orientated rock music and heavy metal, and I think it's a wonderful thing. There is a gender and sexual equality within the music, but there's also a point where in the past it's a different time. Anyway, rant over, I'll get off my soapbox. They'll never put me away, God damn them, I'll never put me away, so my soul's on fire. So I think what they're saying here is that it's either probably a story about a guy on the run, the tattoo parlor, or he may have killed her and now he's on the run. Who knows? It's just a brilliant piece. You do get a lot of Zakk Wylde's over the top squealies in this, his pinch harmonics, and it's got that real sort of swagger. You can just almost see the layer of sweat on the dance floor, and the pole shining, and the disco lights, and and to be honest, sadly, almost the blue vein tattoo, the marks of the needles, where these poor girls are users, and the only way they can make money to feed their addiction is to dance naked or to pull tricks. And these rock and roll fiends feeding them for their own altruistic and voyeuristic outcomes. But it is a great song. Aside, it is a cracker. It's probably as I said before, my favourite. It's definitely, now I think about it, it's my favourite of the Zakk Wylde post Diary Ozzy songs. And there's a lot of songs out there that are amazing, absolutely amazing, but this one just, it sort of, I don't know, it sits in and strokes my purient life thought pattern sometimes. Anyway, we again get Demon Alcohol. says what it does on the bottle. It says what it does on the package. It will be about his alcohol abuse and addiction. And I think isn't that a wonderful thing that we can do that in music? And we can do it in all art forms, writing, music, all sorts of things. You can air and stand-up comedy. I did stand-up comedy for a little while, and it was a good way of airing your dirty laundry, basically. Managed to. I mean, what did the wonderful Billy Connolly say? If it wasn't for stand-up, he'd have been completely broke because he had no way of using, had no therapy. And it's the same with this. I think is Ozzy's. I'll wash away your lies and have you hypnotized. There'll be no compromise today. I share your life of shame. I think you know my name. I'll introduce myself today. I'm Demon Alcohol. I mean, it's not like he's putting it with any. He's not hiding it behind any clever wordplay, is he? He's saying what he is. It's Demon Alcohol, and all of us, every single one of us, like all of us, have been touched with suicide. We've also been touched with people with alcohol abuse and drug abuse in our lives. And here is a note just to say, guys, that please do reach out. And if you do have a problem and you know you've got a problem, and knowing you've got a problem is half the problem. I've said problem 4 times there, now 5 times. But I'm making light of this, sorry guys. If you have that, reach out. There are plenty of people out there, to see and to help, and you can get better. And music can do that for you, baby. It can really do that. If you need to find an addiction, music is not. There are worse things to be addicted to. Anyway, moving on. So we then move on to the next one, which is Hero. Okay, Hero is probably one of the most prototypical Ozzy songs on this album. It's basically trying to, I think, again, he's probably reaching out to Sharon and his family, saying, I don't want to be your hero. Like, I mean, he's a flawed human, like all of us. I know, and he's weak. I can try to take you higher, but I don't want to wear your broken crown. It brings me down. Basically, he doesn't want to be there. I don't think he feels he's strong enough to fix people. And I don't think he's strong enough to be hero material, because when you're in the depths of alcohol abuse and drug abuse, I've not been there, as you say, but I'm just from the outside looking in, and from friends and family that have issues. You do have such low self-esteem that you don't believe that you can get out of it, and so you don't want to be someone's hero. He's no more. He's full. He says, "I don't want to disappoint. The fool's no more. The fool's no more." So again, he's probably saying that to his fans as well. If he's got some bad criticism, probably from Ultimate Sin, he doesn't want to be your heroes. Why? I mean, the Stranglers did it with No More Heroes, classic track, where they just wanted to be musicians and didn't want to be people's poster boys. Although, let's be honest, all rock and roll stars want to be poster boys. You change your tune, you don't know what to play, so don't you run away. Everybody's talking crazy, some think I'm the devil, maybe. Again, all down to the bat-eating Farrago and the issues that he had with touring groups, issues with Sabbath. I mean, at that time, 1 second, pardon me. Must get a new mic. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, with Sabbath was coming, Headless Crosses was a year or so away. They'd been recording with Tony Martin for years, hero of mine, and Sharon didn't like it, so Sharon and Ozzy decided to write them out of history. And Ozzy, I think that would have hurt Ozzy a lot, because, deep down, even though they had animosity, they had created beautiful music together. And a history as well. So it's probably something to do with that, as part of it, saying to these Sabbath fans, I'm not your hero. Don't look at me that way. I mean, am I reading too much into it? Maybe I am. And then we end the album on Liar. Now, Liar has his refrain in Liar is one of the best of the post-Sabbath era tracks. It has that sort of, it is, I'd call the ballad of the album. You know, you ask me to the time of day, I tell you I don't know. In darkness I'm light years away, the voices come and go. Save me all my life, I've been a liar. Burning bridges in the rain, the crying embryo. I seem so blissfully insane, but still the pain won't go. You know, it definitely is. It definitely is. Really, we're coming into the depths here. I think. You know, he's really searching his soul in these album, these songs on this album. He's had some fun, you know. Like, I didn't mention it before, so I did make the note, and I wasn't on the right piece of paper, but like Miracle Man, you know, it's basically about Jimmy Swaggart. Those that know who Jimmy Swaggart is, was a preacher, and you know, he's basically he drove people into a fervent frenzy of religiosity, and took lots of money from the church, and you know, he was sort of a TV evangelist, okay, and you know, the church saw him as, people see him as a sinner, other people see him as a savior. In fact, I have family friends who saw Jimmy Swaggart when he played at Wembley Stadium many years ago. How I know that is my friend Mark, yeah. No, was it Mark? Yeah, Mark. Sorry, I'm looking at the distance there. Another Mark, I've got loads of friends called Mark. It's a generational thing. His parents were really religious, which was interesting. You say they were really religious, but his dad had a big stack of softcore porn mags on the side of his bed. And I used to go to his house, and when his mum and dad were out, and we'd flick through these copies of Razzle and Mayfair and Penthouse, and I remember once we looked through about 10 of them, and I put them back on the bedside table that they were stacked there, with very suspicious adverts for sex toys cut out from them as well. Anyway, it's one of those things. Each into their own, baby. Each into their own. And I remember we were sort of playing on his Commodore 64. That tells you how old this was. And he came in, his dad came in, and his dad was a really nice guy, really lovely guy. And he went up to the bedroom to get changed after work, and he got really angry because they were not in the order he wanted them to be in. He didn't mind his then 12-year-old boy looking at what we like to term in the trade in the UK as wank mags. I hope I don't get upset people by saying that. But anyway, naughty magazines, top shelf things. He didn't care. No, he just didn't want it in the wrong order. And I want to say stack, I'm talking 30 or 40 of them. Unbelievable, really, when I think about it. Each into their own, baby. Each into their own. Anyway, well off track there. So yes, Liar. So it's a really sad refrain. The lyric refrain is beautiful. The recording's beautiful. It is sort of a good ending to a really classic album that is sadly, I think, lost in the time and lost in the pantheon of Ozzy albums. I really want you guys, I'm finishing up now because I'm almost at an hour. I want you to go away and play it, yeah? And see what you think. See what if you think you feel the same way about the way that I feel about the lyrics and the album and the guitar solos and Zakk Wylde's, the birth of Zakk Wylde. I really now can only listen to him in very small doses. I love early Black Label Society, love his Ozzy stuff, but some of it just gets a little bit too samey. You'd never tell that to him to his face. He's a big mammoth of a man that probably would bottle you without thinking. But he's probably a big softy as well. I mean, I know someone who's interviewed him and they had a great time interviewing him. So anyway, that's my wrap of No Rest for the Wicked. Great album cover as well. Ozzy sitting on a throne surrounded by kids. It's a good. It's yeah. If I'm gonna give it out of 5, I'm gonna give it a 4. I wouldn't give it 5 because Ozzy, I don't, too many other albums are brilliant, but this is my favourite one of them because of the time, the place, the connection with Tattoo Dancer and Santa Sangria, and the connections with Mark and his dad and the poor Mags, and buying the CD, the cassette with my own, all of my money I had that week. It's just. I mean, the music is why I do these podcasts, because it's what I like to express my love for this stuff. Anyway, I've rambled on. I keep rambling on. Please do, please do like my podcast on Spotify and Apple iTunes and wherever you get your podcasts. Do pop over to my Facebook page. I'll link below. Come and say hello, leave me a message. Talk about anything you want to talk about. Do give me some ideas about the 50th episode. I hope you're all well. Hope keeping safe. And thank goodness gigs are all back out and going again. So there'll be some good gig reviews coming up because there's some big gigs coming this year. And anyway, see you on the other side, guys. Bye.
Hey, it's Mark Marin from WTF, here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Lowe's knows July 4th savings are worth celebrating. Right now, get up to 40% off select major appliances. And get an additional 10% off 2 or more select major appliances. Plus, get 3 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. These deals are coming in hot. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details. Excludes Alaska and Hawaii.
Federal missions demand efficiency. At GDIT, efficiency means streamlining government operations, automating citizen services, and saving the government over $1 billion a year detecting and preventing fraud. We bring proven AI, cloud, and software development solutions to the forefront of driving efficiencies, delivering savings of up to 40%. Because at GDIT, efficiency isn't just possible, it's built in. Learn more at gdit.com.